Hello, before I get into my painting today, I thought I'd show you the paintings which I took to a craft market last weekend. I showed a similar video of ones that I'd done for the gallery, which I'm part of, and you will have seen some of these pictures before if you've seen my previous videos. I was excited to do the craft market though, and it was running over a Friday night and a Saturday instead of just the usual monthly Saturday which I do. It went really well and I had an absolutely lovely couple of days chatting with loads of people, and I also sold all but 3 of these paintings. A couple of the paintings are prints, but most of them were originals, so it means that before I go to my next craft market I need to do some more paintings. So today I thought I'd do another painting of my local beach, Trevornan's Cove, based on this photo which I took and which I've used as a reference photo before. I wanted to try out something new though, and the idea had occurred to me to try doing a watercolour base on soft pastel paper and then going over the top with soft pastels. I've used soft pastels before over the top of watercolours, but that was done on watercolour paper, which the soft pastels don't stick particularly well to. I figured that if watercolours could stick reasonably well to soft pastel paper, then I could get a much more saturated look with the soft pastels sticking well to the paper on top. So here I'm using Canson Mi-Teintes velvet paper in approximately A4 size, and this is quite rough textured paper, very similar to Clairefontaine's pastel matte paper. I've kept the watercolour section of this video in real time so that you can get some kind of idea of how the Mi-Teintes velvet paper copes with the watercolours. I found that the surface of the paper dragged the brush quite a lot, and also required a lot more water than I would usually use with watercolours. I had to put more effort into moving the pigment around the surface, but the watercolour did bleed and spread a bit, even on the dry paper, so I think I would struggle to get much more detail than I did here really. If you've seen any of my previous what I call splodge and scribble paintings though, this is about the level of detail I apply my watercolour with in the first layer anyway. So overall I was really happy with how the paper took the watercolour. The colour stayed nice and the paper didn't buckle or go soggy at all. I'll show you at the end of the watercolour section which specific watercolours I used. Oh, one thing I should probably mention as well is that the paper does stain if the paint's left in a heavy concentration in one place for too long. You can see in the sky a couple of darker patches of blue where that happened. I use a silver black velvet number 12 brush throughout. Here are the main watercolour paints that I used for that. Sorry, they're just on a scrappy bit of paper. After blocking in the colours in roughly the right areas, I then dried off the paper with a heat tool and got out my pastels. I used this set of Sennelier soft pastels. It's the 80 half stick landscape set. I really like this range of colours, though after using the set today I could have done with a few more greys. I also used this full set of Prismacolour NuPastels. I found the colour range in here absolutely great and filled in some of the shortfalls with the Sennelier set with colours from here. These are much firmer pastels than the Senneliers though, and so are better for details. I started off on the sky with a Sennelier soft pastel, but realised that it was still a bit damp. Soft pastels are kind of water soluble, and so it wasn't moving how I needed it to move. I went and dried the paper for a little bit longer with the heat tool, and then tried again. To blend out the soft pastel, I use a mixture of my finger, a short round flat-topped brush specifically for soft pastels, and another tool that kind of looks like an eyeshadow applicator. The two tools were from a set from Jackson's Art, which I'll link to down below, along with everything else which I used. I actually really enjoyed the whole process of doing this picture. I don't know how much of the original watercolour is actually showing through anymore, but I feel like starting in that way takes the pressure off for me. It means that I've already got the colours in roughly the right areas, giving me the structure of the whole picture. Plus I just really like using watercolours, and so it's a nice way to start off, just splashing colour around. The Canson Mi-Teintes velvet paper was great. I really enjoyed using it with the soft pastels. It's the first time I've done a full picture with it before. And I really like the depth of colour I could get with the pastels on it. My colours felt much richer than when I tried to use soft pastels over watercolour on watercolour paper. I really enjoyed using the Sennelier soft pastels. They are very soft but without being too crumbly. And then I found it really useful to have the NuPastels as well. As I said, they're much harder, and so I could get details like the path on the distant headland and the windows and trim on the building. Plus I snapped short bits off the sticks and used them in a blunt way on their sides. So all in all, I really enjoyed doing this, and I'm quite happy with how it turned out. It took me just over an hour altogether. Thanks ever so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Bye!